Welcome, everybody, to the Coach V Show here on Island City and your Hollywood personal development radio show, where tonight we are featuring Mrs. Fahina Tavake-Pasi, who is the Executive Director for the National Tongan American Society. And she has quite a testimony with some life lessons of being born in Tonga, coming over to Laie, where her father helped build the PCC campus in Laie, to now shout out to Matteo, moving into Matteo and then ending up in Salt Lake City, Utah, and the life lessons that led her to becoming the national giant she is today for Tongans here in the States and around the world. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Coach V Show. Now, a word from our sponsor.
Soles is more than just for saving your floors. It also prevents heel bruises and pains from unbalanced cleats.
Hi, my name is Daniel Bruckner. I'm a private practice pediatrician here in Southern California, as well as the chair of pediatrics at Providence Cedars-Sinai Tarzana Hospital, and a good friend of Wendy's and also the pediatrician of her children. And I'd like to take this time to support her product, Soles. I think it's an amazing product that will benefit children greatly. And every day we see kids come from soccer practice, things like that. They don't want to take off their cleats, so they come in and I've seen accidents, I've seen sprained ankles, I've seen hurt heels, and I think that this Soles product will really help prevent those from happening. Not only as a pediatrician, but also as a consumer. I can't wait to get the product for myself and for my children. I think it's something that should be owned by every athlete across the country, and I really hope that everyone goes and buys it and enjoys it. Thank you.
Soles will have memory foam and TPE mesh that will wrap around the cleats. After showing my product to my professional friends, I realized one thing. This isn't a product people want, it's a product people need. Soles, taking you from the cleats to the streets.
Welcome to the Coach V Show, your Hollywood radio show for personal development with expert insights and interviews to help you, me, and we work to be our best and live our best life. Offering for your consideration to all of the guests that we feature these success frameworks, behavioral models, and life lessons that, should you believe and see value in them, that you subscribe and deploy it all over your life, leadership, and business. Here on the Coach V Show, powered by Island City, where the beach meets the streets, and from Hollywood, California's Dash radio station. Today we have an awesome guest. Fahina Tavake-Pasi is our featured guest tonight here on the Coach V Show's Mana Motivation Monday. She has a bachelor's from the University of Utah and also a master's from the U of Science in Public Health Education and Promotion. She is currently serving as the Executive Director for the National Tongan American Society. Their mission: strengthen the Pacific Islander family by promoting health, education, cultural preservation, and civic engagement. Their vision: Pacific Islanders are healthy, self-reliant, culturally aware, and civically engaged. I am so happy, honored, and grateful to have this opportunity to feature your Tongan sister, auntie, and grandma, Fahina Tavake-Pasi. Fahina, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Viliami. Glad to be here.
Yeah, you do so much, and I've heard so much about you for years, and I finally was able to get in contact with you, and so thank you first and foremost for just accepting the invitation. Fahina Tavake-Pasi, what is your genesis point? And you could start us either where you were born, where you grew up, or your professional career. What's your genesis point, Fahina?
Okay, well, basically, I was born in Tonga Tapu, Tonga. My father, Titari Sione Titari Tavake, is from Fatumu, Fatumu Tonga Tapu, and my mother is from Tonga. So I was born there, but we moved from Tonga when I was age 5. And my father at that time was recruited to come and help build the Polynesian Cultural Center the Tongan village in Hawaii. And so we moved to Hawaii and lived there until the culture was built or the Polynesian Culture Center was built. And then we stayed there. And then my parents worked there for a year or two afterwards. And then we moved in 1965 to California, San Mateo, California. And that's where I basically grew up, in San Mateo, California. And then I got married, and that's when I moved here to Salt Lake City, Utah.
Nice. And what are the life lessons of being a Tongan immigrant, invited and asked to come partake in a huge project like PCC? Not only do Polynesians know PCC, but it's world renowned for their floor show. I mean, it is a floor show in all the villages. What are the life lessons about coming here from Tonga and basically trying to figure things out? What are the life lessons there, Fahina?
I think for me as a young child, I mean, as a young child, I didn't perform on the stage, but we performed in the village. And I think just watching my parents work with their culture and my father was the oldest of his siblings, and my mother was the oldest in her sibling with her dad and mom. Her grandpa or her dad had other siblings, other kids older. But I think as the oldest children, I think I learned from them how to be responsible, not only culturally, the importance of being educated about your culture and living your culture, the Tongan culture specifically, but also how to, because along with that was the responsibility of taking care of each other, most especially your other siblings. Being that they were the oldest, they were always looking out for their siblings and their children, things like that. I think that's probably one of the main lessons that we learned. And we continue to do that, me and my siblings. I mean, even my youngest brother, who was born in California, in San Mateo, I mean, he still does the tokonaki, every Christmas, Thanksgiving, or what have you. My brother still brings tokonaki to us, the sisters, which is something that they saw my mom's brothers do growing up. So just observing the culture in play growing up is probably one of the biggest, huge, positive lesson for me.
And what are some positive takeaways from your childhood about Laie? I love the North Shore. I still, to this day, I'll drive from the other side of town in Oahu to the Hukilau Cafe. That's in the city next to Laie. I forgot the name of the city, but the Hukilau Cafe was featured on a Hollywood show, a Hollywood movie with Adam Sandler. I just love that area, Turtle Bay. What are some fond memories of the North Shore from your childhood?
I think the fondest memory is the fact that I was baptized there. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So I was actually baptized in the Laie Bay right there. So that's what, and then our family was sealed in the Laie Temple. That's one of the main reasons why moved out there. Laie Temple. But I think some of the other fond memories of growing up in Laie, or at least a couple of years that we had in Laie, it was the opportunity to perform and to meet a lot of people, or for example, we were there when Elvis Presley came and did the Blue Hawaii thingamajiggy.
No way.
Yeah, we were there.
What?
And I remember when his helicopter came and landed, and it actually landed in the Tongan village. And he came out and stayed in one of the little Tongan huts there during that thingy. And we were told to stand in certain places and wave as he was landing. We were there when Dean Martin, I can't even remember some of them, but we had a whole ton of stars that came to PCC to visit and to what have you. So we were always there performing. I mean, not only for the tourists, but for big names. So yeah. I think that's one of the fun things that I remember growing up there. And then of course, school was fun. But not as fun as PCC. And then I think the other memory was as mingling with the college students, because at that time, a lot of students came from Tonga, came to attend. At that time, it was called the Church College of Hawaii.
Mm.
later turned to BYU. And so a lot of them came in, and it was fun for me because my parents would on occasion let us go with some of their family members that were college members to
Right.
go to BYU to the church college and eat at their cafeteria. So I remember that was fun.
Right. And then now you went from Tonga to Laie, and now from there to what's known out here as Cali as Mateo, right? But San Mateo, man,
That's
shout
funny.
out Mateo, shout out EPA,
Oh yeah.
shout out Hillsboro, shout out
Yeah.
Cappuccino High out there, San
Mhm,
Bruno,
mhm.
because
Don't forget Aragon. Aragon.
Aragon, oh yeah, Aragon, that's right. I mean, and then now to move from this island paradise is what I call the North Shore, right? To now
Mhm.
Mateo, 101 freeway. It's, the Bay Area, or what the
Uh-huh.
kids call today the Yay area. Talk about some of your experiences and some of the things that framed how you are today from being in Mateo.
Now I'm gonna cry.
It's all good, Fahina. Take your time.
Yeah. Basically because I hate when I cry, but that's okay.
It's all
Basically
good,
because that's what I call home. That's where I call home is San Mateo. And even though I live here in Salt Lake City, every time I land in San Francisco, it's like home,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So my sister Tori, she still lives out there in the home that we grew up in. So I always go straight there, whether she's alerted or not. And that's one thing good about our Tongan culture. You do not have to call your relatives and tell them you're showing up.
Yeah. Real
Move
talk.
over, exactly. Move over. I'm taking over your bed because I'm older than you. So I go there all the time. But my memories of San Mateo. I mean, growing up, I went to Sunny Bay Elementary. I went to Sunny Bay Elementary, and from Sunny Bay, I went from Sunny Bay to Burrell. In fact, we were the very first sixth grader to open up Burrell Junior High School as sixth grade.
Wow.
Because prior to that, it was only seventh, eighth grade, But then we were the first that went in and opened up the sixth, seventh, and eighth in Burrell Junior High. And then from there, I went on to Aragon High School. Aragon was, and the funny thing is that I remember growing up in elementary, Sunny Bay and Burrell. I was a fighter. There's only like two people I couldn't beat up in our whole elementary school. One big old Mexican dude and one big old African American dude. And I was the next bully in line, because people would make fun when I would, my mom would throw keke in my bag, for that's lunch, and of course you do it, you're like, and plus the oil would leak through your bag, your lunch bag,
Right.
and everyone like cracking up, what's wrong with your bag of lunch, they say that, okay, you get a punch, so everybody, or I wear my shoes I remember my shoes that was pink inside or red inside, and when it rained, my white socks would like get all pink, and then people would laugh, and then I'd have to fight about that too, so I would fight all the way junior high school and and elementary. But it wasn't until I got to high school at Aragon High that I never fought. I got involved in a whole lot of different things, and some in boards, service projects. I was a cheerleader, got involved in music and choir and all sorts of stuff in high school. So Aragon was a great, I was in the swim team. I was in the our volleyball team, basketball team. I was in the badminton team, so really got involved. And then from there, graduated and went to CSM, College of San Mateo. Yeah, because I wanted to be a pilot. And so I went to CSM and graduated from CSM with my associate in aeronautics, and started, getting my very first job was working as the SPC at this animal shop. I worked there for like 6 months, and then I got a job at Heidi's Pie, waitressing at Heidi's Pie, because I wanted to earn money to start flying lessons. So I started flying lessons out of San Carlos Airport. So I was flying lessons, and that was my goal, to get a pilot. And then when I was ready to go to, I don't know what got in my brain and why I thought my dad would let me do that, but I needed to go to go out of state into, what was it? Anyways, further north into another state to do bush flying. To build hours, you needed to build hours to get your license, and you go there and you do bush flying and stuff like that. Because I was at that time flying little Cessna 150s, But then my dad would not let me, because at that time I wasn't married. Would not let me go out of state because, like, heck no, you are not going out of, So that kind of just destroyed that whole dream of
Right.
of being a pilot, but because actually my dream was to become an astronaut, and being a pilot was like one step closer to that. So it was crazy. But those were like really fond memories of and then of course the cultural stuff, and when we moved in San Mateo, I think there was like maybe 6-7 families in the Bay Area.
Right.
Tongan families, because we moved in there in like 65. And we stayed with Tionha Foca's family, because that was my dad's best friend in high school. So we were with them for about 6-8 months or something before we were able to get a home. And it was but watching people come in and taking people into our house at that time, they came and lived with us, and my dad would help them find homes, find jobs and things like that, and move them out. I mean, at one time we had like 30 people living in our 3-bedroom house, right?
Right.
Because the garage,
that's a Tongan experience,
exactly,
right?
because our garage turned into 3 bedrooms, and all the men lived in there, or other family, what have you. But it was crazy, But thinking back about it, it was really I loved my childhood. I loved my childhood. It was very traditional. It was very Tongan, and it was very, it just showed me how to service. I guess the whole thing about it was serving others.
That's awesome. So then now, talk to us and bridge us from there to now getting into the University of Utah, going to school, and then why pursue, I mean, especially back then, because my last guest, Emmeline Katoa, who was just on, she was talking about in the 80s when at my church, in Pomona, California, we really didn't see anyone within our congregation going to college. I believe it was very similar for you in your generation as well. So now you're at CSM, got your associates, and then now you transition us into your vision and now executing on a plan to go to college at the U, where it's cold. It's cold at the U, right? It's different. They have all the seasons there, unlike, and Mateo gets cold with the Bay Area cold and all that.
But not this cold.
Man, not snow cold on top of the mountain at that. So talk about that, Fahina, please.
Okay. Well, basically, I think the whole reason of moving here was because of my husband, because like I said, I loved San Mateo, did not want to go there. We got married in the Bay Area. I had a double wedding with my older sister, Kelela. And so I lived there, had all the kids. I had 4 children. And so I was working there, doing work for Apple, I can't remember the name, but anyway, it was finding jobs for people, helping find jobs for people, finding people who needed a job, pairing them up and all that kind of stuff. And then after I had my children, then I got stuck, I had to kind of like stay home and take care of them and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, and after like 2-3 years of that, I was like tearing my hair out, after I had my last child, and I was like, oh my goodness, I can't do this. So I told my husband, I'm like, you know what, I really need to get out, because I'm going to drive myself crazy, staying home, yelling and taking care of babies, and, and so my mother-in-law here in Salt Lake, heard about how I wanted to go back to work. And so she made an offer. She said, well, why don't you guys move here, come to Salt Lake City, and I will watch your kids, we'll watch your children, and you can go do whatever you want, And I'm like, okay, that's going to be hard moving out of California. So it took me like 3 years to finally get to a conclusion to go ahead and move. And so it wasn't until my, and actually what I did is I did send my children. I sent like all my kids here to to Salt Lake City. And so my mother-in-law, and then at that time, my husband worked for American, so we were able to go back and forth whenever and however to see the kids. But my mother-in-law watched the kids while I just worked in California. And it wasn't until, so that was like about almost 3 years. And it wasn't about until my oldest was going to start kindergarten. And I thought, okay, this is really stupid if me, the mom, is going to stay here and let my kids go to school. So that's when we moved to here to, to Salt Lake City, when my children started. So when we moved here to Salt Lake City, got a job, and I worked here for, I can't remember. He was a football player for BYU. His dad owned a business, same kind of, where you found, he was a, a quarterback.
Yeah.
Back in the 80s, whatever. But his dad owned a business that was similar to like finding jobs for people and whatever. Anyway, he hired me. So I worked for him for a while. And then I decided I wanted to go to school. And so, of course, with my mother-in-law and everybody's support watching the kids, I went ahead and went to school at University of Utah for my bachelor.
Mm-hmm.
And once I got my bachelor, they hired me there at the University of Utah as the very first Pacific Islander working as an academic advisor.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked there and then decided, okay, well, I might as well go for my master's while I'm sitting there doing nothing. And then that's why I worked on that too. So that's kind of like how that whole story. But then I worked a lot with, trying to put together a program where annually we had this big old Pacific Islander conference. And then what I did is I wrote to all the high schools in the Bay, not in the Bay Area, here in Salt Lake City area, and also down south and up north, and invited all the Pacific Islander students. And so they would get buses and bring them up to the U. And so we would have this big old conference. And basically my goal there was to encourage the children or the college or the high school kids to go on after high school to get a degree. So it was all about promoting going on to higher ed. And so I did that every year while I was there. And they continue to do that to this year, to this day, they still continue to do that. So I think that's probably one of the best thing I ever did when I worked there.
That's awesome. So really just you and your husband just made a mess and figured it out as you go, huh? Right?
Yeah.
That's because I really approach entrepreneurship. I think even community work, because if you would have told me, because we run free programs here with Invictus Youth Foundation. We had just 255 kids come through our doors this past weekend, Friday and Saturday, where we just encouraged them through a platform they love. It happened to be football on this one, ages 5 to 13. And people are always going, how did you guys get here where you could raise money and put on free programs? Nobody gets paid on your staff. And I told them, just the same way that I do with a lot of things in terms of entrepreneurship, you make a mess and you go and you try to figure it out. Versus a lot of people feel like, yes, there is a strategy, there's a design, you need protocols, procedures, task orientation. Yeah. But when you're first starting, you just got to go.
Yep.
You got to go and make it happen. And then as you're going, you start to go, okay, this makes sense. Okay, here's the schedule. Here's the outlook in terms of an annual plan. Here are the time and the money allocations for how we need to do things. Come on, Fahina, real talk or not?
Process. Yep, it is a process.
And so talk about that, how you guys, both as a family, you and your husband just went, you know what, we're going to figure this out. And not sit down and make sure everything's set before you go. Because a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of our people, in fact, they just see that and they go, man, I don't know if you can't do it. Well, like Michael Jordan, and my son plays baseball, and for 2 years, he wouldn't swing the bat at the baseball. I'm like, son, you miss 100% of the balls you don't swing at. You can't wait and just so you can walk the base. You have to try to hit. And did you experience anything like that in terms of your entrepreneurial family approaches to life, leadership, and business, Fahina?
Yeah, in fact, I think one of the major, and it wasn't really a lesson, it was just the way, it was just like, I think one of the lessons in this story that I'll be sharing is our values, is the importance of having your values and sticking to it, and not letting anything sway you. Because one of the lessons, the reason why I left, well, I shouldn't say left, because I got fired from the University of Utah, was because we had a student that the reason why I got hired in the first place for the University of Utah is to help our Pacific Islander students, bring them in, and also to help them be successful in their career as, as students in college or universities. So anyway, so we had a certain student that got into trouble, got into trouble, doing gang type stuff, but he really was a good kid, but he was playing football. He was playing football and all that kind of stuff. But because of that, he did a little bit of time. And then when he came out, went back to football. Right. The Department of Sports did not want him. He had already done his time. He had all his due diligence and things like they would not let him go in and play because of that, And so I stepped up and I said, no, this is not fair. This is not fair the way you're treating our Pacific Islander student here, because blah, blah, blah. So I rallied up, and of course they wouldn't give in. So I rallied, I wrote letters, did a whole bunch of stuff, approached our deans and what have you, did a presentation to the dean of sports and whatever, and also rallied up all our students. We went and marched, up at the, just in our, at the school, and hell no, we won't go type stuff, Right. So in his behalf, and trying to get him back and stuff like that. And then of course, unfortunately, I think they were trying to, with all the trouble that, I was seen as trouble then. So I think they kind of they wanted to release me. So they came up with some stupid reason to release him. But the funny thing is both the coach of that time, which was Coach McBride, and myself, both got released because he was really a good coach, because he also wanted him to come in because he was a good kid, Man,
that sounds like the Havili story, yeah?
Yes, and that's exactly what it is. I didn't want to bring it.
Yeah, I know that story.
Because that wasn't my business, but that's exactly what the story was, And the thing about that is that, for me, it was more important to step up and stand out for our student, because that's really what I was hired to do, whether they like it or not. That was his right that we needed to protect. And stuff like that. And so I think oftentimes in our life, and things happen. And if you stick to your value and what's important to you, things will always turn out. Things will always turn out right, Once I got fired from that, a couple months later, I sat as a board member in the National Tongan American Society, so I was a board member there, just kind of off and on and blah, 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 because I was kind of busy. But they were at that time looking for an executive director, because they had an executive director who had left, and they really had no money. There was nothing that they were doing. It was like basically they were helping people file citizenship, but just their own due time and things like that. And so that's when I, they asked me if I wanted to, and I said, well, how much are you going to pay me? And they're like, well, we don't have any money. And I'm like, right. And I'm like, okay, well then here's what I'm going to do. I says, okay, I'm going to come in, but the very first funding I'm going to bring in is going to be my salary. Okay, and then the rest of you will think about y'all later, since y'all used to this.
Since y'all used to this.
To this already anyways, And so anyway, so I came in, and so that's when I was hired as the executive director. A couple months later, we got a grant, got my salary, and then, started getting more money in and started banking. So now we have we continue to do the citizenship, the civic engagement work, but then we also brought on more health programs like diabetes. We started identifying some of the issues in the community, diabetes, cancer, mental issues, and things like that. So we got classes on that, chronic disease classes, and these were free. So we were able to get these things free, train some of our coaches, and all sorts of different things going on in the community so that we can help our community. And, so that, but even the best part of this is that, I got paid like much more than I did at the U.
Right. But you want to raise the money.
That's right?
You got the grants and all.
And I continue to do that. And that's one of the things that I do is I write grants. That's how we got the funds to run our organization is through grants.
So were you talking about the Sione Havili story?
I was.
Man, that is an amazing story. A shout out to Sione. Sione has been one of the guests here on the Coach V show.
Yes.
about redemption
Yes.
and about how many times, because we make mistakes. Come on, Fahina, we make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
then not only does society brand us, but
Exactly.
we have really the authority, and we must grant ourselves permission that in spite of the negativity, the haters, the naysayers, and maybe our own self-doubt, that we move forward, that we
Amen.
learn and move forward.
And
Because
I
there
think,
is thing as miracles as an amazing grace,
mhm,
but that's unmerited and undeserved favor of God and whoever the listener who's listening, whatever your faith is. But I know that there is no favor should you not have the courage to move forward in spite
mhm,
of all that. Come on, Fahina, your thoughts
right,
on that?
exactly. Amen to that, because I think um it's an individual kind of a thing. It's you,
Mm-hmm.
it's you, everything around you. It's so important for you to be centered. And I like the way you bring that, the faith in, because for me, it's almost like, and I think for us Tongans, what is our motto, our motto?
Yeah.
Ko o tua motonga ko tau
Go
tofia.
without, yeah.
That's our motto. God and country is our
Inheritance.
yes, exactly. And
That's right.
and I think if we continue to keep Christ or God the center of our life, you know what? It
Mm,
doesn't matter if all hell breaks loose around you, you will still have that one inner personal peace. You'll have
mm.
that peace. And of course, you'll have struggles, like I did. We have struggles. You get fired, you get this, somebody dies, all kinds of stuff that can move you to lose it, that can move you to become alcoholic, go towards drugs, do all kinds of weird things in life that can take you in a whole different direction. Things in life can help you to do that. But if you are self-centered, you are, in Christ and who you are, what you stand for, nothing will move you.
Mm. I love that because as a professional and personal development coach for Fortune 1,500 and 100 companies, I talk about these words, alignment and congruence, not just in internal thought and emotion, but even more so in action and activity and performance. Come on, Fahina,
Yeah.
right? Because that's what success and achievement and as well as life fulfillment, joy, peace, happiness, fulfillment, and love is attracted to. Come on, Fahina, right?
Amen.
So you can talk the talk, but man, when you can execute and perform, and really at the highest level, is not that if this thing that is good happens to me, then I will take the next step. Where people in faith go, will come hell or high water, and should the outcome here be that I fail, I am still going to make progress and walk that direction. Come on, Fahina. Because a lot of people only need it to be like, I'll only move if it's going to be a successful, an achievement, a win. It looks good. But there's some folks like you and me, because in the beginning, when I first started my foundation around here, none of the Tongans came out. Nobody came out to support, but nobody comes out to support something that's not successful in the beginning, right? You got to prove it. Yeah. So your thoughts on that in terms of you must be willing in the beginning, middle, and at the end, because everybody's like, well, at the end of the day, it's a little bit more than just at the end of the day. Before the end of the day, during the day, that in spite of the fact that you may fail, may be an outcome, that you go forward anyway. Come on, Fahina, your thoughts.
Yeah, well, I think that personally, I think that life, like I said a little bit earlier, life is a process. And life, in order to grow and in order to learn, you have to make mistakes. I mean, you don't have to make mistakes, but mistakes.
It's part of it.
Yeah, mistakes are part of it.
Part of it.
Failure is part of it. Falling down is part of it. All of that is part of it. And then when you look on the other side of it, there's success, there's all of that. So in order to grow and to progress, you must take that on as a relevant part of life to learn. Because without that, you don't learn. You don't learn. And if you're going to just like try to stay away from all the negativity of life, you got another thing coming, because it ain't going to go away. It'll probably happen to you over and over and over. Same thing over and over again until you learn.
Real
Okay, and
talk.
then when you learn, and then it'll move away from you.
That's right. Once you learn and
Mhm.
change, and that's what I
Exactly.
love about the Shone Havili story, because in spite of what was going on to him, he still moved forward.
Yep.
Actually, never finished his football career because he got hurt, but he still went forward and tried
Mhm.
and graduated. Now
Mhm.
he's an executive there in the tech world for Doko. I mean, the story is just freaking, but it does not work unless you move forward. I love that. So um, let's talk about your nonprofit, and let's talk about the National Tongan American Society. And you've already touched on some of the things it is you do, but could you share? Because
Sure.
many of us only hear the legends of what you guys are doing, the amazing work, the amazing funding, and because people don't back stuff that's not successful and cannot execute and perform on the mission. You have done such a great job. Please share with the audience and those that don't know so they know.
Okay. Well, the National Tongan American Society started in 1994, and it was
Mm,
basically put into place by Sione Kaisa Lui, at that time was the president. He is currently passed away. But Sione Kaisa Lui, Ivoni Nash, who is still there, Lupe Prescott, who is still there. And there was an attorney, and I can't remember his name. But anyway, he was the one that kind of assisted in helping them put this. And I think Mancella. I think he forgot his last name, but anyway, so I think these were the people that came together to put this organization together in 1994. And their first executive director was Mataele Finau, who's a
mm.
dear friend of mine and is now running a national Tongan, just currently opened up a national Tongan American branch out there in California, in Oakland.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was there at their open house a couple months ago. But so that's who started that. And then, of course, like I said, they didn't really have a whole bunch of money to run it. They put it together because a lot of our Tongan people needed help to file their citizenship, and they couldn't do it, didn't quite know how to access the system and how to process it. And then I came in, and so they kind of went, I think off and on, they would get a little bit of funding here, but nobody really got paid to do anything. They just volunteered their time and all of that. So, and then they even had an office, but they used their own personal money to pay for the office
Mm-hmm.
at that time. And so it was kind of difficult for them. So in 2003, when I was released from the University of Utah, that's when I came in. And and then by the next year, we had people on salary or paid, and then we also had I was telling, okay, none of this, I am not going to be paying out of my pocket for this office. And so we were able to get funding in to start paying for the payment of the office and so forth. And then we moved because the office sucked, whatever. And so we've been there since now. And so now our programs, we have health programs that helps free classes that are open to all the community, anybody in the Tongan community, or anybody that, most of it are done in Tongan, where they learn how to prevent diabetes, or if they have it, how to manage it. Cancer stuff. We had teenage pregnancy classes because teenage pregnancy was kind of high amongst our people. So we had some of those classes for our folks. So several other classes. And then we also have our civic engagement, which where not only are we doing the citizenship, continue to do the citizenship filing, we also help with their tests. We do classes that help them to how to pass their tests for their citizenship, also filing their green card, doing all kinds of stuff. And then we also have other issues, political kind of issues that come, like when they have English only, that's kind of like a big issue. We step in and we take over, well, not take over, but we help out with the issue. Like right now, we have a big old ordeal here in Utah about different school district not letting our children wear leis. They have an issue. They don't want them to wear leis at graduation. And
Mm.
so, in fact, one of the presentations tonight, we're having Charlene Louis, who is the wife of Kaisa Louis, who started the NTS, but she is now our president for our board of director. She will be presenting at one of the districts tonight. So we'll be there, supporting her. about why lay is not to them might just seem like a flower to the districts, but for us, it's much more than that. It
Yeah,
means more
there's
than just
cultural
simple lay.
significance. This
Exactly,
isn't just
exactly.
artistry or
Exactly.
jewelry,
Just
right? Right, right.
exactly. And that's what the whole presentation will be tonight, to let them know, to educate them.
Awesome.
Sometimes people just get on my last damn nerve, But anyway, so that's that. So when things like that come up, the NTAS, we step in and we make sure that we kind of have a voice, make sure they're represented up on Capitol Hill. We've even gone so far as to go to DC to represent and say things in behalf of our community, about various things that affect our community. And then, of course, we have our scholarship, our education, where we have donations and people donate and we raise funds and we have money that come in. And so every year we give at least, 2, 3, 4, 5 scholarships to, and this is to encourage our youth, to go on to college. So whatever it is, they don't have to go to college here at U. They can graduate and attend college anywhere in the state or out of state, but we will give them, and it's not much, but it's something. But the fact that they can say that they have a scholarship, they received a scholarship, that's a big mover for some of our folks, for
That's
some of
right.
our kids. That makes them feel like, yes, they've accomplished something, which they have,
Right.
and we wish we could give them more, but, sometimes it will be 500, 1,000, a couple thousand, depending on how much funds we get in. So, yeah.
So that's awesome. So you started with born in Tonga, went to Laie, Mario. You and your husband figured out your family process, being in two locations, coming over, standing at the top of the hill at the U and fighting for students and encouraging them, creating conferences. Now you're the executive director. What would be Fahina's message to the world? What would that be? Of all the experiences, what's a message that you have for the world?
I think two things, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
One is to be grateful, have a
Mm,
with a grateful heart for everything and anything. Some people feel like, living in Tonga, is poverty. But man, I just went to Tonga, before the COVID and stuff like that. I tell you, Tonga is so rich
is that right?
that
Real
we do
talk.
not. You walk around Tonga, you do not have to. You could just drop a seed, and that seed will grow, and you will have food for life.
Mm,
Okay, Tonga is rich. It is not a poverty-stricken country, because we don't have it. If you're hungry, it's because you're lazy. Okay,
mm,
if in Tonga, because there's food and people love God and everything. Tonga is rich. And so I've learned to appreciate and be grateful for whatever, and growing up in San Mateo, with white socks that turn pink and geke in my little backpack for, I'm not
uh,
getting the peanut butter or the bologna sandwich, but geke, appreciate that, because that's part of who you are,
right.
what makes you who you are. Be grateful. And then the second part is service to others.
Mm,
I think if we stay, just kind of like centered around ourselves and everything is for ourselves, something's wrong with that. I mean, I know. I just feel like that is that doesn't help you grow. I think being of service to other is that route that helps you grow, develop into a better person.
that is phenomenal. What are the focuses in the current projects that you'd like to share that maybe you could talk about you need support for, or that how we can also get a hold of you and donate and help support the good work that you are all doing? How do we do that?
We have our website, which is www.ntas, which stands for National Tongan American Society. So NTAS Utah spelled out UTAH.org. So that's our website.
Okay.
And all the different projects we have should be on that. Hopefully our website master is doing his job. But right now we are working to get funds for, right now we're kind of, I think we have like over 50 grand. That our board is working with some of the council members, legislative members in Tonga, or some folks in Tonga, to how that money can most be used to to help those who are mostly affected by the tsunami. So all that money will go to Tonga, and so they're working is to make sure that it goes to the families to help them. So we have that. And then of course we have our, we just have donation that comes in, and it goes towards supporting our like community health workers, which basically they do classes, some of the classes that I mentioned. Also, we have people that go out to help teach classes amongst our Tongan senior citizens. Oftentimes they're senior citizens, they don't have much to do or whatever, and they get bored. So we have a program for our senior citizens. So they work at senior citizen homes where they go, and a lot of them will go to these senior homes. They have fun because they play card. The older men can play pool, and our folks will go there and they will teach classes, some of the classes of how they can manage if they have chronic diseases or some of the fun things. And then we'll have, have them perform at our Friendly Island Festival, which is an annual festival we have every August. So they'll come, the seniors will come and they'll do a ma'ulu ulu or a little laka laka or something like that, and they have so much fun getting ready for that kind of stuff at that age. So basically one of the things we do is we just try to keep our community active, and engaged, and we try to keep them informed. We also have a weekly radio show that Ivoni hosts every week. And so we make sure it's mostly in Tongan. We make sure that most of the listeners are probably the older generation, but we make sure that they're informed about things like that, so that's kind of like basically some of the things that we do. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing your projects. And you said ntasutah.org. Io?
Yes, Ilko, yeah.
Yep. So for all of you, and if you missed it, it'll be down in the description below so that you could just tap in and you could see the programs that they're working on and really the opportunity to serve through a donation on that link here below. And let's talk shout outs, Fahina. Who would you like to shout out here on the Coach V Show?
Oh, wow. Something just came to mind as we were talking. I would like to do a shout out to all the grandparents, all the Tongan grandparents and parents in the States. Most especially those of you who do not talk Tongan to your children or your grandchildren. Because as we're talking, in my mind, I'm thinking, even my youngest brother who was born and grew up here in the state, he speaks, reads, and writes Tongan because my parents would not allow us to speak English in our home. So they spoke Tongan to us the whole time or whatever, And so I think that allowed us to speak Tongan. I mean, even I coming at a young age, I could have not learned Tongan. I could have gone all English, But the shout is to not look down on our language, because that's really what ties us to our culture. If you value our culture, you value some of those things that we have that is not here in America, like respecting our elders. I mean, they do, but not as much as we do. Respecting the elders, respecting the brotherly sister respect of the family, love of parent, that kind of thingy. That is something that is learned through the Tongan culture, and most especially through the language. So if you are able, and I have to say that I am guilty of not doing that with my children, and that is a lesson learned, with my children and my grandkids. And so at a time, I tried, okay, this is it. We're going to Leafagatonga. So I was trying to teach them. So I was going through a time where I was speaking in Tongan to them. They're, huh? What'd you say, Mom? So it was almost like I had to say repeat myself every time. So I'd say it in Tongan, I'd say it in English, Tongan, English, Tongan. And then I was like, oh man, I'm going crazy.
Right.
But if you have that opportunity, when you have your children, when you have your grandchildren, start talking to them in Tongan. That's the biggest shout out, because I think that's our way to promote all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So yeah.
So that's a great shout out. But this one is specifically, and I'm in on that. Like you said, because there's a difference between the word respect and the word whakaapa-apa. There's a difference, right? Yes. And then the way that we are respectful towards our sisters, what is appropriate and inappropriate.
Exactly.
And language for me as a professional speaker is huge. I mean, when I'm with Dunkin' Donuts or I'm with the United States Secret Service, there is a way to convey a message that is appropriate according to time, place, circumstance, and within the organization's mission and vision that is more appropriate than another. And like you said, man, language is huge. Language and food, because I talk about three things that really attract and build an amazing culture: is human connection, validation, and value. So when we value our language, our human connection as a people increases. Our validation in terms of, yes, we are Tongan. And does that mean you need to be a Tongan speaker? I hear these debates amongst our people to be Tongan. No, but it does help. Is it going to be hard as hell, as Fahina's talking about? Because that's me in my bilingual house, right? It's like, I have to say it in English and then in Tongan. So, and then we do it for a certain amount of time and move on. In a household where my daughter's 7th grade and taking Japanese, and then, you know, really the more appropriate language to learn for survival and business in California is Spanish, right? So all these things are not anything that either Fahina and I are saying are easy, but as a professional and personal development coach for corporate companies and billionaires, millionaires, and 100,000aires that are amazing people, is that it's worth it. Come on, Fahina, it's not easy. It's just worth it. Success, learning the language, trying to figure stuff out. None of that is easy. Exactly. It's just worth it. Come on, Fahina. Anything else before we move on? And we're almost done.
Yep. Nope. I totally agree with what you say. Totally agree.
So in that, now shout out some of your peeps. Like, who are your peeps that you like to shout out? The people in your life that you would like to shout out? Anybody in your organization? Shout outs, please, Fahina.
Oh yeah, sure. Let me see. First of all, I think I'd like to do a shout out to my siblings. They're always at the top of the list. My sisters, Tori, who's in California, out there, Mario still, and also my sister Piuela, that's out there in Mario too. Also shout out to my brothers. I have one brother here who's Tavake, and then my other brothers are out in California, and Tracy, Sam, and Lolo, that's out there in Hayward, and Paul, who's out there in East Palo Alto. So shout out to my brothers. My other brother who passed away, Loto, and then my sister Kelela. They're graves. Our organization, Ivoni and Lupe, and also to Penina and Marianne and Richard. So, and then also to Louise and Laulea. So those are our current workers with the NTAS. Really so grateful for them for all that they do.
That's awesome. Let's shout out the husband. Let's shout out the husband
and
the kids. Let's shout out the husband on the kids. I got your back. Don't worry.
Thank you for reminding me that. Shout out to my husband. And I am married to, his name is Devita Alapuku-Pasi, who is the son of Daniela Pasi and Melenite Pasi. So both from, they live in Nuku'alofa somewhere. They're both from Ha'apai, the parents. And then my children, let's see, oh my goodness, my children, Daniela, Melilaki, Louise, and Kadisha and Peter, and yep, those are my children. So, and then all the 17 grandkids, and I'm not going to bore you with all the names.
So thank you for that, and shout out to all the folks that
thank you.
Are around Fahina, both in the organization, within the community that support. You know, we all talk about it takes a village. But I believe that Fahina is doing what I am attempting to do here, and those that are in community service. And if you think that service is below you, all the good things in life, leadership and business, is including finances and love and leadership, is above you too. Let me say that again. If service is below anyone who thinks that they cannot serve and don't have time to serve, then all the greater things may be above you too. So just consider that. Everybody's grown. You can make your decisions you want, but just consider that. In my perspective, serving has just been so fulfilling. And when you say the name Viliamitu Ibai out there, the majority of people will say, man, that's a good dude. He's a good guy, good family guy, and those things. So consider that. In that, we have come to this part of the show. If you're just
Can I
tuning
just
in,
add one thing real
yeah,
quick?
yeah, please, Fahina,
Because I don't
yes.
want to mislead people to think that being in service is having to do a grand thing.
Yeah, you just do what you can do. Come on, tell them, Fahina.
Exactly. Even a simple smile to someone that looks like they may need it is service. Knowing someone that's sick and just taking a meal over there, knock at the door and just leave it there if you don't want them to know who it is or whatever, order it and send it, or just something very simple,
I like that.
From
That's real talk.
That's right. From simple to something that you could do, like whatever, that is service, and I think our prime example, I mean, you can look to Jesus,
Amen.
His whole life was service to
Service.
people and to others. Very simple kind of things. So don't feel like it has to be huge and big and grand to make you feel like it. No, the simplest and to just making somebody's day a little bit better is service. Thank you.
I love that. I love that. So for everybody joining in, we are here with Fahina Tavake-Pasi. She is the executive director for the National Tongan American Society. We only have a few minutes for the hot seat because the conversation was just juice, real talk, and then some awesome life lessons that anybody, if they see value, that you subscribe and deploy it into your life leadership in business. That starts first and foremost with your faith, belief, and your mindset. Fahina, let's talk food. In Utah, when Coach V lands in Salt Lake City to do an event, where should I go eat? Let's talk top 2 spots that Fahina thinks this is where you need to go eat if you're in Salt Lake City or where it is. Were you guys in Murray?
Yeah, our office is in Murray.
The office is in Murray, Utah. Where do we go eat if we're around that area?
Oh my goodness, right around that area, where would I go? There is nearby a Chakarama, which is a buffet.
I love the fried chicken at Chakarama and that bread. Boy,
Yeah.
give me that bread. I'm like, keep the bread coming.
And the good thing about Chakarama is that they really have a good salad bar. And I know a lot of us don't care about salad, but they have a really good salad bar. And, as Tongan, I'm thinking we want somewhere to go where we can eat all we want to eat, and go on
variety, yeah?
Yeah, they have the fish, so that's good. But that's really good. And then, but if you want something like where you sit down, I like Olive Garden also, because sometimes they have really good salmon there. Yep. And then there's also some other buffets in some other place that's a little bit more classier type stuff, but no big deal, So, but I think I would recommend for any Tongans that come, I always take them to Chakarama.
Yeah, a lot of options there, a lot of options. And
there's a whole lot.
And man, Olive Garden breadsticks and salad. Oh my gosh, I go there for salad and I gain weight because I eat too much breadsticks and the dipping sauce. I love that stuff. Let's talk for you here on the Coach V hot seat. What should be the top 3 priorities for Tongan Americans? What should be the top 3 priorities for Tongan Americans? This is the last question on the hot seat.
Wow, that is a huge questions, especially since people's important, things that are important to them could be different.
Yeah, priorities, right?
Priorities, yeah. But I think the top 3 priorities in my mind that would be most important is first and foremost your family. I think your family is important. I think God is important. Well, that's probably should be priority number 1. God, your religion, whatever. Because I'm hoping that as we come to America, that we don't lose that. Because in Tonga, like I said, that is our motto. That's something, right? So I'm hoping that that's something that our Tongan American children do not lose, that our families, our parents and grandparents teach that to our children, that God is first and foremost. Because no matter what happens, that's really who should be the center of your life, first and foremost. And then number 2, I think, is your family. Your family should always be important, to be. And then, of course, I think maybe number 2 should be yourself. You should be there. How do you, putting what is important and what will make you the best you possible, and then your family. So I think those are the 3: God, you, and your family.
Very good, very good. Man, like I told you when we first got on to start recording, that's the fastest hour in Hollywood, huh? That Fahina,
Yeah.
that's been an hour already.
Wow, that
And,
is
and then what's a final before I close off the show? Any final thoughts about being on the show? Any final thoughts that you want to make sure that the audience gets before I close off? Please,
yes.
Fahina.
First of all, yeah, I mean, I want to thank you for this opportunity to share my thoughts,
Thank you.
and hopefully I didn't bore folks with what happened. But I think my final thoughts, I think, is a couple things. Is that just to remember to be of good cheer on a daily basis, not to let things bring you down, and to remember who you are. Remember who you are, and figure out 3 things in your life that you stay committed to, and stay committed to it, so that those 3 things will be able to help you become the best you possible, and how you can affect others around you, and that however you ripple out, that you are rippling out positive. And that's not to say that we don't make mistakes. Like we said earlier, we do make mistakes, but do your best. Life is worth it.
Oh, very good. So thank you, everybody who has been tuned in this Mono Motivation Monday here on the Coach V Show on Island City, where the beach meets the streets. We are the only island-centric people that has a media company that's broadcasting from Hollywood, California. So very proud to be on this platform. Grateful to Joey Kenga and the crew, Amon Green, for all it is that you do for me and my platform. And really, it is not just for the sake of success that Fahina and I would have a conversation here and deploy it into the marketplace and out there to the world, but really for the sake of you being your best. In doing so, you realize the best of your abilities, and that everything that you work, pray, and engage and don't quit with can be achieved. This is how your girl Fahina and your Tamasiti brother, Coach V, lives, all about faith and family. Grateful for God's amazing grace. Thank you again for tuning in to this episode of the Coach V Show, broadcast on Hollywood, California's Dash Radio Studios, and on the Coach V Show podcast. Please subscribe on the YouTube channel as well as to the podcast, and we will see you next Motivation Monday. From Fahina Tavake-Pasi and your boy, Peace.
Yes, thank you. Bye.